Greetings, I'm Angela, and I want to share my unique journey with you. Unfortunately, it revolves around the challenges I've faced with my rather difficult in-laws and husband. I'm currently going through a divorce, but I thought it would be interesting to share my story, especially if any of you are dealing with constant criticism from your in-laws without any valid reason. My husband Dylan and I first crossed paths through a dating site. At that time, I was a 21-year-old college student, while Dylan was 27 with a stable job. Despite the age gap, Dylan and I fell in love. Personally, I don't judge people based on age or appearance, so Dylan's age never bothered me. However, Dylan struggled with it, constantly questioning why I chose him over someone my own age. "I don't understand, Angela. I'm so much older than you. You could do better and find someone your age," he would say. But my response was firm. "Yes, I could, but I don't want to. I love you, regardless of your age." Dylan couldn't believe it, always insisting there must be other reasons. He doubted the authenticity of my feelings, revealing underlying self-esteem issues. Determined to prove him wrong, I consistently showed my love throughout our relationship. I never let Dylan spend money on me, even though I wasn't financially struggling as a college student. I worked small jobs, bought him gifts, and paid for my own meals. Despite my efforts, Dylan's low self-esteem persisted, and he refused to accept that I genuinely loved him. I did my best to be supportive and understanding, but his constant doubts about my love were heartbreaking. For the initial 3 years, I couldn't fathom why he held such a low opinion of himself. The revelation came when I met his parents, particularly Dylan's father, William. William was a hardworking man who, at one point, struck luck and won the lottery, transforming their lives. They purchased an expensive house and secured their future by putting the remaining money in an account. However, there was a downside. William and his wife, Shirley, had an attitude of superiority. During our first encounter, William proudly declared, "Not everyone can make it big like me. I was hardworking, and look where it got me." Winning a huge lottery on the first try is uncommon. We always knew how to make good decisions. Dylan completed college, but he'll never have money like us. Before the lottery, he couldn't even get a girlfriend. I guess most of his partners had precious metal-digging personalities. They left when we accused them of being greedy, and we were right about them. Somehow, Dylan still keeps making the wrong choices. Listening to Shirley and William belittle Dylan infuriated me. Their insinuations that every girl Dylan dated was after his money, including myself, were humiliating. After years of hearing these remarks, Dylan started to internalize them, explaining his insecurities. The fact that Shirley and William hinted at me being a precious metal digger added to the humiliation. I felt the need to speak up for both Dylan and myself. Politely, I expressed my disagreement, explaining that Dylan had worked hard to establish himself at his job, and with time, he would achieve even more success. Despite this, the conversation took a negative turn, with someone suggesting that women were only interested in Dylan for his money. I clarified that our finances were shared, but Dylan co-owned the house. I reassured them that my relationship with Dylan was based on love, not financial gain. Attempting to ease the tension, I empathized with Angela, mentioning that sometimes it's challenging to accept others' success and nice homes. However, I couldn't suppress my growing frustration with the comments from William and Shirley. Dylan, though aware of the situation, remained silent, steering the conversation away. Afterward, I confronted him about his parents' behavior, expressing my displeasure. I questioned why he didn't defend himself or address their insults. Dylan explained that he had encountered people in the past who tried to exploit him for money through elaborate plans involving the house. He pointed out that just because some individuals were precious metal diggers didn't mean he was one too. He also reminded me that I didn't speak up when my family insulted him. Acknowledging the possibility that his family might be right about certain things, he mentioned the importance of considering our circumstances. He highlighted that my lack of parents meant relying solely on his inheritance, which could be perceived as unusual. "Dylan, what you're suggesting is quite peculiar. I've never requested you to spend money on me, and just because I don't have an inheritance doesn't mean you should label me as someone interested only in wealth." Despite my efforts to make Dylan comprehend, he refused to acknowledge my perspective. He consistently expressed his love, emphasizing that the reasons behind our relationship shouldn't be a concern. While many might find this reassuring, it didn't sit well with me. I didn't want him to view me negatively. I attempted conversations and even proposed therapy, recognizing its potential benefits for him. However, he insisted that everything was fine with him, so I eventually gave up. I kept away from his relatives. Time went by, and we decided to tie the knot soon after I finished college. My job wasn't high-paying, but I managed to save some money for our wedding. We shared the costs equally and got married when I was 24. The following 4 years were tough. Dylan frequently visited his parents and always came back in a sour mood. Despite my attempts, his family kept mocking him, labeling me as a precious metal digger. I encouraged Dylan to reduce his interactions with them, but he remained unresponsive. Despite years of demonstrating my worth, things took a turn for the worse on Dylan's birthday. We had a modest celebration at home, and I gifted him the pricey watch he had been eyeing. Dylan was delighted with the present, but my joy dwindled when he insisted on heading to his parents' place to flaunt it. Upon reaching their house, Dylan promptly approached Shirley and William, proudly showcasing the watch and exclaiming, "Mom, Dad, check out this gorgeous watch Angela gave me. I've been longing for it. Isn't it beautiful?" Oh, did she notice the resemblance between Dylan and her in looks? Love can be confusing, you know. We were a bit worried for a while. Be careful, William, she's only interested in money. She married our son because we have a $350,000 house. Let's not forget the facts. Yes, that's true. I almost forgot that the house is the only reason Angela married Dylan. Excuse me? Why do you think I married your son? For your house? Well, you were living in an apartment after working for 5 years. Plus, Dylan is much older than you. Why else would you marry him unless you want something from him? I'm sure our house was always an attraction, if not his money. I chose to be with your son because of my love for him. Any thoughts you have about me being after wealth? Dylan knows the truth, and he'll vouch for it, isn't that right, Dylan? Surprisingly, Dylan stayed quiet, not saying a single word. I began to feel uneasy about how my in-laws perceived me as someone only interested in money, and Dylan's lack of response caught me off guard. He kept his head down, avoiding eye contact. Wanting to address the matter, I asked, "Why the silence? Your parents always believed I was a precious metal digger. How can they truly understand who I am if you don't set the record straight? Why the silence? Let them know they have the wrong idea." Angela, I'm not sure what you want me to express. I can't confirm if my parents are mistaken. There's a chance you might be interested in this house. Are you serious, Dylan? Do you actually believe I married you for your possessions? It's unfair to assume that. It's concerning that you never considered buying a house. We never talked about it. If you're renting, shouldn't getting a house be a top priority? Certainly, it's a matter of your priorities, but you opted not to commit to a home. You observed that our residence comes with a high price tag, making it beyond your financial reach, even with your best efforts. Instead, you've chosen to marry Dylan and establish a life here, and that decision appears more rational to me. I mean, Angela, why would you choose to marry me? While you may harbor feelings for me, it seems there's a deeper motive beyond just love. This revelation left me utterly speechless. All the love I had for Dylan suddenly seemed worthless. Ultimately, both my in-laws and even my husband began to view me as someone only interested in wealth. The reaction from my in-laws didn't affect me as much as Dylan's response, which left me devastated. In that moment, I promptly made a life-altering choice. I decided to initiate divorce proceedings. I kept my decision to myself, choosing to wait for the right moment. So after Dylan and I returned home, I reached out to a lawyer expressing my intention to initiate divorce proceedings. The lawyer assured me that the necessary documents would be prepared within a week. During this period, I decided to reside in a separate room temporarily. Dylan didn't say much, assuming I was just venting my emotions. Little did he know about the impending change. Once the divorce papers arrived at my parents' house, I packed my belongings and left. When Dylan called me in a state of panic, I instructed him to come to a specific address and bring my in-laws along. I shared the address with him since he had never visited my parents' residence before. Despite his confusion, he agreed. Upon their arrival, I awaited them on the porch, and their expressions revealed their astonishment at the house. With a smile, I remarked, "You must be wondering why I brought you here. It's a stunning house, isn't it? No one can compare their home to this. It must cost a fortune, easily in the millions. This mansion holds a market value of around $3.5 million today. Quite pricey, but its worth justifies the expense. The furniture adds even more value, totaling in the millions. Angela, what is the story behind this place? I can't fathom why you have access to such an extravagant house. Hey, come on in and let's chat. It's a bit much to spill everything on my porch. By the way, what did you mean by your port?" I shrugged off the question and strolled inside, with them trailing behind. Once indoors, their amazement grew. It was evident the homeowners spared no expense. As we sat down, I spoke up. "I've made a decision, which is why I called you here. I've filed for divorce, and here are the papers. We can go for an uncontested divorce if you're up for it." They seemed puzzled. "Why are you filing for divorce?" one of them asked. It's because you and your folks believe I'm a precious metal digger, aiming for your house. That's not true, but you won't listen. So to spare you from my precious metal digging self, I've decided to divorce Dylan. It'll make everyone happy. Dylan's response was immediate. Divorce just because my parents spoke the truth? That's ridiculous. We didn't say anything wrong. Why the theatrics? I believe it's a positive step, Dylan. If she's so determined you should sign the papers, then you can find someone who truly loves you. Turning to them, I questioned, why did you bring us to this house? Are you expecting me to include it in our divorce settlement? Dylan's family was taken aback. Why would I buy this house when it's already mine? I declared confidently. Shock and disbelief spread across their faces, as if a bomb had detonated in their minds. Dylan and his family were skeptical. How on earth can you afford a house like this? He asked. You're just renting, and your job isn't good enough to cover this. Don't lie to us. Dylan, I want to clarify something. I didn't lie. Remember when I mentioned my parents leaving me an inheritance? Well, this house is a part of it, currently held in a trust. But here's the catch. I'll only receive it once I hit 33. I don't have a regular job because I have a trust fund waiting for me. Impossible, right? Your parents passed away ages ago. Why didn't they let you have the house earlier? Actually, my parents were worried about people taking advantage of me. They cautioned against discussing the house or trust fund with anyone. They placed everything in a trust to ensure it stays secure until I reach 33. I'll be with someone who truly cares about me, not just for the inheritance. Wow, Angela, it's surprising to learn about your wealth. We had no idea. This house is massive. We could all enjoy such a comfortable life here. It would have been helpful if you had shared this earlier. We were concerned you might have hidden intentions. Clear communication could have prevented all these misunderstandings. I always believed Angela was the right match for Dylan. I've been saying she's an incredible person. Now, seeing her wealth, it's evident Dylan found an excellent match. Upon hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh. Their perception of me shifted so rapidly, it was like a whirlwind. What's even more peculiar is that they swiftly overlooked the fact that I had initiated divorce proceedings. I pulled out the divorce papers, signed them, and remarked, as I was saying, here's my signature for an uncontested divorce. You can sign these to make it easy. If you want to contest it, we can go to court. I won't continue living with you. Angela, please understand, there's no need to rush this. You've proven you're not motivated by money. There's no longer a valid reason for a divorce. We can even extend our apologies for any misunderstandings. It would improve everything, wouldn't it? Yes, William is right, and we're sorry. Angela, we wrongly questioned your honesty. Dylan, your apologies don't seem genuine to me. For the past 3 years, your family has criticized me, accusing me of being after your wealth. I had hoped you would support me, but instead you joined them in labeling me the same. I can't stay with someone who disrespects their spouse. I've decided to end our relationship. We can separate on good terms or go through legal proceedings. The decision is up to you. Dylan, Shirley, and William made sincere efforts to persuade me to move on from the past, pleading with me to forgive and forget. In their view, it was just a minor misunderstanding. However, not once did they express regret for damaging my reputation. When I reached my limit, I insisted they depart before resorting to involving law enforcement. My anger intimidated them. Yet in the subsequent weeks, Dylan and my in-laws continued to relentlessly pester me. They begged, offered incentives, and wished for a change of heart on my part. Their actions implied they believed I was motivated by money, intensifying my anger. Ironically, being a co-owner of the house entitled me to half, prompting their desperation for reconciliation. Despite their persistent efforts, I remained steadfast in my decision. I relocated my belongings to my parents' house, fully aware of my entitlement to half of Dylan's share. I held on to my determination, even though I hadn't officially acquired ownership of the house yet. Dylan and the in-laws kept reaching out until I eventually changed my phone number to avoid their persistent communication attempts. Despite Dylan's appearance at my workplace, security intervened and asked him to leave, as I had no interest in engaging in a conversation. It's been almost a year since I filed for divorce, and I'm getting close to being officially separated. Even if Dylan opposes it, the courts will make the final decision. I'm doing fine on my own, content and financially secure. I go on casual dates without getting into anything too serious. Dylan's cousin noted the difficulty in purchasing my rightful share, as Dylan actively promotes a sale, harboring resentment towards his parents for the turmoil in his life. To be honest, I no longer harbor any concern. My sole aspiration is to emancipate myself from that familial tie.